Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Motoring Adventures YouTube channel. I'm Preston. Today, I wanted to go over a full walk around of my 2002 Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland and also give you some pros and cons of owning a 2002 through 2004 Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland. Some of these pros and cons will be specific to just the Overland trim of the Jeep Grand Cherokee WJ, but some of them will also be applicable to any 1999 through 2004 Jeep Grand Cherokee, which is also known as the WJ model. So, all right, just to give you a little bit of background info, this is the second Jeep Grand Cherokee WJ Overland that I've ever owned. The first one was actually a 2004 model year Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland that I owned back in 2012. I had owned that after owning my 2008 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited Rubicon. And the purpose of trading, well, why would I downgrade from the Jeep, the one vehicle that I had owned longer than any other was my 2008 Jeep JKU Rubicon, and I had that. That was the vehicle that got me into Jeeping, got me into off-roading, camping, and I had done heavily modified, or not heavily, but I'd done a lot of things to that Jeep. That Jeep was very special to me, and the only reason I did get rid of that, I think, was I recently got laid off from my job at the time. B, there were certain things about it that, it was not perfect. No vehicle is to me, but things that I kind of been yearning for the whole time, like having power, like V8 engine power, and just a little bit more creature comforts. We just had our first daughter, Jasmine, and this was a way you could get a V8 with a solid axle Jeep. Is it a Wrangler? No, but it still has solid front and rear axles, so you're able to articulate very well with this. It's like having a lot of the benefits of a Jeep Wrangler, but also some of the creature comforts of not, because you have, a unibody vehicle, a fully, hard top metal roof vehicle. No, you can't take the doors off. I mean, you can, they're just not as easy, but it was in some ways more refined and nicer, but still having the ability to go off-road. So I think what I'll do here is give you a full walk around of this Jeep Grand Cherokee. Like I said, this is a 2002 Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland. Overland's a trim level that gave you a lot of nice creature comforts, but it also came with the 4.7 liter high output V8. Now this model, we did add a small lift kit to this. I did a previous video where me and my brother finished up the lift on it. Which is a kind of a mix, kind of a Franken lift in a way, but it has 4-inch coil springs by Iron Rock Off-Road, and we paired it with a set of Bilstein 5100 shocks, and then added a set of fully adjustable control arms by Core 4x4. You can see them here painted in green. I don't know why my brother picked green, but you could select the color you wanted, and they had a bunch of different colors, and he chose green, I guess, just to be different. You can see here the way the Grand Cherokee works in the rear. It has a A-arm. You can see right there above the pumpkin there. So it's kind of a unique setup that this has. I don't know if that gives it any more flex or not, but I guess with the unibody and having the subframe, they decided that was a better way to design the suspension on the Grand Cherokees. You can see here we're still running stock drive shafts. This Jeep is extremely clean. You can see there's hardly any rust at all on the subframe and on the frame in general. When my brother first found this Grand Cherokee, he told me right away, he's like, I found this very good condition. And he right away was telling me all about the interior, because the interior on this is like brand new. We were thinking to ourselves that this thing had to be, and I believe it was a one owner when he bought it. Now I'm the third owner, but it had to have been owned by somebody who didn't drive it very much. and it probably sat in a garage because, I mean, this leather, for being this old, usually these things, the leather is all cracked or it's very dry and hard. This leather is still soft, and you can see there's not very many cracks. There's not a whole lot of discoloration, and just overall the Jeep is just in incredibly good shape, especially for being 23 years old at the time of filming here. Here's the back seat. You can see just, oh, it's just so soft. And there's still a lot of firmness to the foam or the material inside. It's not like it's worn at all that much. Here the headliner's still totally intact. A lot of times when these older vehicles, the headliner starts to fall. Even the dash. What I like about the Overlands, they came with these wood steering wheels at least on the top parts, and a lot of times the leather starts wearing off on the steering wheel and they become really warped and nasty. But because this is just solid and shiny, it still feels like it's a brand new steering wheel. And you can see they added wood accents in the center console and on the passenger side dash and along the doors. Power seats here to the passenger side. You also have power seating here. You have lumbar support. Doors are still in excellent shape. The hinges don't squeak or make any noises, and it feels rock solid when they shut. You can see with the lift, I had to do a little bit of trimming of the front bumper here. I know that's not the most visually pleasing thing, but it also, to the untrained eye, you might not notice that. There's only one real blemish on this thing, and it's right here. There was obviously some sort of fender bender. As you can see, it's also bent on the plastic part of the bumper there. My brother tried to kind of fix this, do a little bit of body work there, just use some, I think, spray paint or something, but and also sanded it down just to smooth it out a little. But I don't think that's anything that a true body shop could totally, they can make that look like brand new, I think. Now, along with the lift, he added a set of BF Goodrich mud terrain tires. These are the KM2s, and these are in size 255, 75, 17s, which makes these a 32-inch tire. We are running, I think, some wheel spacers here to help prevent any rubbing. You can see right there. I believe they're like an inch or maybe an inch and a quarter wheel spacers. I think it really helps with the way it looks, probably the way it handles and rides too. Let's pop the hood. There you go. There's the 4.7 liter high output V8 engine available on the Jeep Grand Cherokee WJ. Now, these weren't specific to the Overland, but the Overland always came with the 4.7 liter high output. I believe you could get the high output in some of the limiteds or maybe in one of the special editions they had, but the Overland always had the high output version. It'll always tell you also in the back that it's the high output version, as denoted right there. Here it tells you it's got Quadra Drive. And what Quadra Drive is, it's got a 2-speed transfer case with basically a full-time 4-wheel drive high, like an all-wheel drive, and then neutral, and then your 4 low. It splits the power 50-50 front and rear, but it uses a viscous coupling inside there to help transfer power to where it's needed. This is when it's in the 4-wheel drive all-time mode, the 4 high. That gives it, sends kind of power to the wheels, from the wheels that slip to the wheels that grip. But then also in each differential, it comes with limited slip differentials. So it's also going to kind of act as a locker in a way. It's going to send, if this one's slipping, send it to the other side more. And that's a pretty unique all 4-wheel drive setup that they've come up with. So it's almost like having fully locked Jeep, without having an actual locker in the front and rear, without having too many options, I guess. They kind of simplified the four-wheel drive mechanism for people that would want to buy their top-end, basically luxury Jeep. So I've come up with a list of pros and cons of owning the Jeep Grand Cherokee WJ Overland. Now I'm gonna start with the pros here, and these are in order of importance, or I guess number one pro to the what I think is the least pro, but they're all, you know, positive things about owning the vehicle. Then the cons will be negative things. Pro number one is good off-road capability for the money. I mean, with this you get the quadra drive, the limited slip differentials, solid axles, the maneuverability just from the overall size of it not being too big. And, you know, that goes along, you know, with its wheelbase. It's longer than, say, a two-door Wrangler, but it's shorter than a JK or a JL. So it's kind of in that sweet spot for breakover angle, especially once you lift it up. And, you know, once you add a lift on this thing, it's extremely off-road capable. Pro number two is the engine, the 4.7 liter high output V8. It has excellent sound, especially when you add an exhaust to it like we've done here, my brother's done. He basically just had the muffler chopped off, and it's got excellent sound, I think, especially for how much it costs to do that. Although I don't think it's quite as loud and deep throaty sounding as my Rubicon 392 was, it still has that V8 sound that we all know and love. It just gives the vehicle so much more character, I think. It has decent power, 265 horsepower from the high output V8. I believe the non-high output one was like 235. So they somehow squeezed 30 extra horsepower with the high output. I believe they used like a different cam, or they changed the internals a little bit, so you would get more horsepower. It wasn't just like they added cold air intake or something like that. But it also brought you 330 pound-feet of torque. So, pro number three is the utility of this thing. The cargo area is pretty large. I mean, you get a lot more room in, say, a two-door Wrangler, that's for sure. Right now we have this thing still has the actual cover that came with it. We have the spare tire here. Normally it goes under here. There's a space for a space saver spare, but since we've got, actually not a space saver, they came with full-size spare tire for the stock 29s or whatever came on it. But since we're running the 32s here, this won't fit there. So there's, you know, other solutions you can get. You can get a bumper with a swing out tire carrier to carry a larger size off-road tire, but for now this is just sitting here in the cargo area. But you can see there's still plenty of space in here. You could stack things up, and if you push the seats down and create that larger area there, you still got plenty of room to bring gear. One thing I like about this too is you can just pop the window open, so you can just go in and grab something without having to open the entire tailgate. That's always a nice feature that, you know, a lot of SUVs have, but some of them don't. It does come with a roof rail, so you can add a roof rack to this thing, giving you even more cargo space. And then it has the 7,500 pound towing capacity, which is pretty impressive. That's funny because the Wranglers, the most you could ever tow with a Wrangler, I think, is like 4,500. If you have one of the newer ones, they have the full floating rear axle and whatnot. Like even the Rubicon 392 I own only had a towing capacity of 3,500 pounds. I don't know why exactly that is, the suspension or the fact that it's open top, I don't know. But it definitely had the power to pull. It just wasn't rated to tow any more than 3,500. They didn't want to be legally liable if you towed anything more than that, you know, for safety purposes. But these, with their you know, rated hitch and 4 and 7 pin wiring harnesses, could tow up to 7,500 pounds. Pro number four is the luxury. I've pointed out to you before the luxurious soft leather seats. And although it's not the roomiest SUV out there, it definitely has enough room to bring you and 3 full-size adults with you. I'm 6'1". You know, it's decent. And The seats are so comfortable. They are, I mean, they're soft, but they're not so soft that you don't have any support. Like I said, they've got the lumbar support you can adjust. It's just, it's a very nice place to be. Whether you're in town or off-roading or wherever you might be, wherever this thing will take you, which is quite a lot of places. This thing even has adjustable pedals. You can adjust them out if you're really short, or if you're tall like me, push them all the way back. The final pro of the Jeep Grand Cherokee WJ is the aftermarket options you have out there. Although it may not be as many and plentiful as they are for, say, a Jeep Wrangler or a Toyota 4Runner, you do have quite a bit of parts out there. A lot of manufacturers, lift manufacturers who make lift kits for Wranglers and other solid axle vehicles also make kits for the Grand Cherokee. So you have options, and the fact that it's solid axle makes lifting it relatively easy. I mean, I think it's easier than if you have an independent front suspension vehicle where you're going to be dealing with a lot of different parts and different issues that come up, and it just seems like it's more expensive to lift an IFS vehicle from what I've seen than a solid axle vehicle. It's older technology, but it's very simple. I mean, you just have shocks, springs, and control arms basically, and then you'll want to address other things like drive shaft angles and maybe stuff to align it, like your track, so your tie rod and your drag link will have to be adjusted. But then again, that's a simpler steering setup as well than, say, like a rack and pinion. So on to the cons of the Jeep Grand Cherokee WJ Overland. I'd say the number one con of this would be its fuel economy. And keep in mind, this is its fuel economy after lifting it. It is comparable to maybe some of the older Jeep Wranglers, especially when they were lifted. But a lot of the modern Jeep Wranglers, like the JLs, I mean, you can put modest lifts on them, up to 2-3 inches, and you won't. And depending on the tire size you get, like if you go up to just a 35, you'll see some mile per gallon loss, but it's in this, I think the percentage is higher when you go to a larger tire size and lift. What I've been seeing in this so far hasn't been able to break past 11.5 miles per gallon. And I don't remember exactly what I got overall in my 2004 Jeep Grand Cherokee, although I can put that in the video. I believe it was more close to 13-ish overall, but when I first got it before lifting it, that thing would get between 16 and 18 miles per gallon easily on the highway, which is comparable to what like a new JL V6 Wrangler can get, probably on the low end. I know those, if you drive them on the highway, they can get upwards of 20 miles per gallon in some cases with stock tires and stock height. But that's probably so far the number one thing, especially at least on this particular one, the way it's set up. Now, con number two is what I call a minor safety issue, and that is the vulnerability of the gas tank, or the fuel tank, where it is located, which on the Jeep Grand Cherokee WJ is in the back, underneath the cargo area, underneath where the spare tire would go. Back when I owned my 2004 Grand Cherokee, back in like 2012, 2013 time frame, Chrysler came out, or Mopar came out with a recall on these Grand Cherokees because of the dangers of being rear-ended and causing a fire and the vehicle to explode. I believe their remedy for that recall was to add a hitch receiver if it didn't already have one. So I think if you have the hitch receiver there, I guess that reinforces the frame in the back enough to where it's not as likely to start a fire if you get rear-ended with the gas tank being there. But that is something I just do have to mention. I remember really that kind of freaked me out a little bit when they announced that, and I was just thinking, because we just had my young daughter, I was taken around everywhere in that Grand Cherokee, and just the thought of being rear-ended and the whole vehicle going up in flames. But I mean, there's a lot of other vehicles that were designed that way. The Jeep TJs had their fuel tank right back there. But then again, that's a different type of body. It's a body on frame, and maybe the boxed frame is strong enough or stronger to withstand impact in the rear, where this is a unibody It's the frame is welded onto the body of the vehicle itself. You have like a subframe, and that's probably not as strong if you attach the gas tank just to the basically the body of the vehicle. So I do have to mention that as a con. The third con is that these could be particularly top heavy once they are lifted, especially the higher the lift you go. I mean, that's obviously the case with any vehicle when you lift it, but because it has such a shorter wheelbase, and I think width in general, when these get lifted, they can become quite tilty when in terms of handling. Might feel a little squishy. Just they're really affected by the height. That the higher you go, the center of gravity gets lifted up, and especially if you utilize the roof rack, you'll you'll feel very, very top heavy in this. It's just something you just have to be mindful of. Con number 4 is that the cabin is small, I think, for a lot of what you have out there in terms of SUVs. Now, it is a very nice cabin, very luxurious, like I pointed out, but it's not the largest cabin. I'm 6'1", and it does work. I mean, I do fit. It just might be small, especially if you're a taller guy. It might feel a little bit of cramp, but you know, that's kind of to be expected. This is basically a modification to the Jeep Cherokees, the XJs, which weren't known for being like insanely large, but at the time it was one of the most, it was a unique vehicle. There wasn't any other vehicle like that. I mean, you had the Jeep Wrangler, which had even less room. But I am going to just go ahead and say that it kind of has a small cabin for what it is, for what you have available out there now. Like, I think a Jeep Wrangler has more room inside the cabin than this does. I mean, it is a box where this is kind of curved and tapered towards the top and stuff. I mean, you have the ability to carry the people. You just might have more room in some other off-road capable SUVs out there. Now, the last con, or con number 5, is the NV247 transfer case that comes with the Overland. This is more specific to just the Overland or the Limiteds. There's models of Jeep WJ Grand Cherokees that don't have this transfer case, but this particular one does, and I mentioned a little bit of it before, but the main problem with this is it uses a viscous coupling inside instead of like traditional gears and a chain, or you know, I don't know all about how the innards work exactly, but it requires a specific fluid that you use with it. And if you don't use that fluid, that viscous coupling can tend to wear out prematurely. It starts making a grinding sound, and it eventually wears. I had this happen to me on the 2004 Grand Cherokee Overland. And you know, anytime you would turn, whenever the front and rear axles were moving at different speeds, you'd hear those gears kind of grind, and you would go, and a lot of people, you know, that's the main thing. A lot of people swap this transfer case out with like the NP231, which was a little bit stronger, more robust transfer case that didn't use the viscous coupling. And then, you know, you got regular, you know, 2 high, 4 low, and 4-to-1 ratios. I believe this is a 2.72-to-1 ratio, so it's not the lowest in the world, but then again, they didn't expect you to be taking this on all-out rock crawling type of off-roading, but it surely can be made to be a rock crawler fairly easily and fairly cheaply compared to some other off-road vehicles out there. And my last con for this Jeep Grand Cherokee WJ Overland is that there's not really a way to recalibrate your speedometer when you add larger tires to this vehicle. It's not like one of the modern vehicles or Jeeps where you can use something like a Taser or an AEV ProCal and easily recalibrate the speedometer for this thing so that the speedometer and the odometer are registering accurate numbers when you drive. When you add bigger tires on this, you kind of just have to know or use something like a GPS to give you your accurate speed. It'll be off, you know, the faster you go, the higher percentage off it'll be. This is only going to apply if you add bigger wheels and tires to your Jeep. Maybe if you plan on turning this into an off-road rock crawler anyways, that's not going to matter that much. But I mean, there's probably is a way to, maybe you take it to a dealership or something and they can somehow flash the computer, but I imagine that would be quite pricey. Tasers and Procals are also kind of pricey, but they make it relatively easy. All right, here we are out for a drive in the 2002 Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland. Back when we switched from the 2008 JKU Rubicon to this, not this particular one, but the 2004 Grand Cherokee Overland, the first thing my wife and I noticed was just how well that thing rode, like especially compared to the Jeep Wrangler JK at the time. And that was with a pretty nice lift kit we had on that JK. It was a Franken lift also, but we had Old Man Emu shocks. And if you know anything about those shocks, they are known for adding really good ride to any off-road vehicle. And so it's not like it didn't ride well, but when we get into this thing, it's like you're riding in a Cadillac. Like, it just, I don't know, maybe, I don't know if it's because the seats also add kind of to the cushy feel of it, but just something overall about how it rides. It's just so, it's like you're riding on air in a way. And that's what these Bilstein shocks on here, which actually give it a little bit of stiffer, they're a little bit stiffer than some other off-road shocks that you can get for any vehicle, but really in particular love the sound of the V8. This does have a full-on sunroof that works. You can see here. It's a very nice feature. I remember when I got that, when I switched from the Jeep Wrangler to this, my friend of mine was like, hey, who needs Freedom Tops when you got a power sunroof? Of course, it's not the exact same open air feel, but it is nice that you got something to give you a little bit of open air feel to it. You know, I've seen lots of people, they'll take the doors off these things, which I don't know what all is involved with that, but I don't imagine it's very easy and not very easy to put on and off like it is with a Wrangler. But if this is going to be your rock buggy that you just trailer, you know, your trailer queen, take out to the trails, I mean, you just take them off, leave them off all the time. But this is definitely not a trailer queen type Jeep. This one had to have been owned by, you know, some sweet old lady that just kept this in the garage. It just went to the grocery store on the weekends, because it doesn't have a lot of like what you'd think could wear and tear from the sun. I mean, the seats aren't faded, the dash looks beautiful. I don't think this thing was ever, you know, parked outside for very long. All right, we're gonna give a little bit. So she'll move. I mean, she is no means any Rubicon 392, but, and in fact, this, with the bigger tires, the acceleration might be comparable to what a modern day JL is with a 3.6 Pentastar on stock wheels in terms of acceleration. But there's just something about a V8 when a V8's being pushed. It's such a glorious sound. And there you have it, folks. This is my 2002 Jeep Grand Cherokee WJ Overland. What do you think of my list of pros and cons for the Jeep Grand Cherokee? If you own one of these, what do you think of my list? Chime in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, or if you've had similar or different experiences than I've had. As always, if you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next motoring adventure. Take care, everyone.